Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Vet Plus One with your host, Adam Miller. On today's show, on the second episode of the Bucks coverage, we're going to discuss the recent firing of Jason Kidd. Now, this may come as a surprise to some, and to others, not so much of a surprise. Me, personally, I am going to say I'm indifferent about this situation. I saw it coming dating back to last year, and how the team they played so nonchalantly in the playoffs, and you could tell that Jason Kidd totally lost the team through the playoffs against the Toronto Raptors. And he's had 3.5 seasons to try to turn this team around. I mean, he's did a good job so far. I mean, I'm not going to discredit him completely because he did a lot with what he didn't have, However, Jason Kidd has been known to be the type of coach that gets on a lot of people's skin and wants to do things his way when it doesn't really work that way. When you're a head coach, you have very little say in what kind of front office moves are being made. And Jason Kidd's perspective, he saw things totally different than the rest of the Bucks front organization and the front office did. Now, in 4 seasons, Jason Kidd was 139 and 152 as a head coach of the Bucks. Now, that's not really good numbers. I mean, that's just plain subpar. With the type of talent that we have and a star like Giannis, there's no excuse why we're performing the way we are. We have Giannis who's averaging about a double-double a game, around 27 points a game, 10 rebounds, about 4 or 5 assists a game. Chris Middleton's averaging 20 points a game, about 4 or 5 assists a game. And you're getting healthier. You got Eric Bledsoe, who is also shooting about 18 points a game, shooting really well. Tony Snell, granted Tony Snell has taken a step back, but that still doesn't give you an excuse for having such a great, talented basketball team and not being able to perform at a level that a lot of NBA execs and announcers and everybody else would expect them to be playing at. Now, the question is, where do they go from here? When they first hired Jason Kidd, I really thought that this was the right move for the team. I was excited traded for Jason Kidd or signed him. I'm very happy that they did that at first. I thought he would do real well with us, and he did for the first part of the season, but we knew what the tendencies were of Jason Kidd, and that how tempered he is, and how he always wanted to control the game, and he wanted to do everything in his power to take control of all the moves that were being made and stuff. He would make his opinion voiced if he didn't like who the Bucks drafted. You can blame him. You can blame the front office for the drafting of Rashad Vaughn and how he was a bust. You can blame him for this year's draft, and granted, Sterling Brown looks pretty dang good. I can say that's a pretty good pick right there, but at the same time, you can't be missing on the draft, especially in the offseason. You got to be able to get players in there and want to play for this team. We didn't really do a whole lot in the offseason to improve this team, and that's part of the money that we lost, and I'm glad that this firing happened sooner, because I think there would have been a trade that would have happened, and for DeAndre Jordan or something like that, we would have gave up, like a Malcolm Brogdon or Thon Maker or whatever. We would have gave some good players away to get him, and I just think that would have just destroyed the team, This team is in a win-now mode. We're ready for the future. Now we just got to get over that lump. over that hump or whatever, you know. This team's sitting at 23-22 in the year. At most, there were 5 games over 500 this entire year. For a team with the caliber of Giannis and Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe, and when Jabari Parker comes back, there's no excuse why we can't make that next step and be like a 5, be a 4 through 6 seed, like I said in episode 1. We have the capability of doing it. We just play inconsistent, and we don't have that coach that can lead us, you know. I don't think Jason Kidd knows how to coach Giannis, and you know you can't really fault Jason Kidd for that either because Giannis is just so talented. It's hard to coach a guy that's multi-talented like Giannis Antetokounmpo is. But that's why you're head coach. Your job is to figure that stuff out and to surround yourself with assistants who can do that. You know, you can't blame everything on Jason Kidd. You know, he just gets everything thrown at him or gets the blunt of it because he's the head coach. He's the one directly impacting with the players, directly talking to them and interacting and all that stuff. But is it only his fault? No, it's not only his fault. I would blame the front office as well. The front office is not being aggressive enough in filling this team with some pieces around Giannis that is going to help us be a better team. We don't need the superstar or a big 3 to win. We can do it without. We just need to surround this team with a better core players that work in our system. And it seems like so many times in Jason Kidd's tenure, he was trying all sorts of things. Well, something didn't work out, so he tried something different. That wouldn't work out, he tried something different. I mean, in a way, that is a good thing to try different systems, but teams catch on to that when they see that you're using different systems and they're not working. They're going to see, oh, this team just continues to change their system and the way they play, and they're going to manage their game around that. For the Bucks to be more consistent and to get the best out of their skills and their players, they need to play more of a fast-paced basketball, spreading the ball, getting open shots, being more aggressive on defense. I mean, they've done that. Jason Kidd did that real well with this team, and that's one thing I credit him for is he really taught this team how to hustle and play some defense. But he lacks that offensive skill. Granted, Jason Kidd was one of the best point guards of all-time assist leader. I mean, you can't fault him for that. But at the end of the day, like I said, it comes down to taking this team over the hump into the next step, and that is winning winning in the first round of the playoffs. Sure, Jason Kidd took us to 2 postseasons. Got swept by Miami, I believe it was, and last year losing 7 games after leading 3-1 over the Toronto Raptors. So who's at the fault? The team that's not playing well, or the fault in the coach? Well, I'm sorry, but it's going to fall on the coach because as a coach, leading that up, you need to be able to corral your young players and let them know, hey, we may be up in the series, but you got to realize that this is a very good veteran team that you're playing against. And it doesn't matter if you blew them out that one game, you have to continue to come back and fight like it's your last game. And the Bucks just didn't seem to have that. And a lot of that falls on Jason Kidd, not corralling the team in and coaching enough. And I think just when he gets frustrated, he is useless. He's not a good coach when that is. You know, he let the frustration get to him too much, and that was his downside. If Jason Kidd's a very good coach, I think it's good for him to step away from head coaching for a while and think about it, or be an assistant. You know, being an assistant, I think he'd be good too, where he could just focus on defense. I think he'd be very, very good at it. But as of right now, I just don't see Jason Kidd getting another job anytime in the future. He has a bad tendency around the NBA with the player he was, even when he was a player, according to sources and reports, that he's just a type of hothead. It was hard to coach and everything. But enough about Jason Kidd for now. It's about the future of this Bucks team and where they go from there, or where they go from here after the firing of Jason Kidd, as it was reported by ESPN, AOL, and Yahoo, and multiple other sources today. From doing research, I mean, some available coaches out there like Mike Malone, Mike Budenholzer, Doc Rivers, Jeff Hornacek, Alvin Gentry. Now, those are some really notable names, but I don't really see any of these coaches listed here that would be a good fit for us, that don't have enough reputation of themselves. Sure, Mike Malone is a pretty good. He coached the Grizzlies, and they had a really good potent offense and were a really good rebounding team, something that we could really need. But we're gonna have to give something up, and that's with all these coaches. You're gonna give up something by signing them. You got Mike Budenholzer, who led the Hawks to several postseasons. But do you want another guy who could just be successful in the regular season and get us to the postseason, but never be able to finish? No. You want a coach that could take you over that, because that's what we had in Jason Kidd. Sure, we probably would have made a playoff still with him this year, but would have we gone anywhere else? No, we probably would have fell off the table. And then you got Doc Rivers, who's a Marquette alumni, and would be pretty nice to see in Milwaukee. But he's the same thing. He just wouldn't take us to the top either. He's the same thing Mike Budenholzer had. Is he took his team to the playoffs, just couldn't win the playoffs. That was the Clippers' downfall when they had Chris Paul. Jeff Hornacek, I don't know. This guy's coach for the not Nets, but the Knicks, did pretty well. For what team he had. I mean, last year, granted they weren't a winning team, but Jeff Hornacek got the potential out of his players. He just couldn't push him over the top to do a little bit better. He had the right game set, mindset, and idea, but he just couldn't get it across his players enough and get his players to buy into him. And then you got Alvin Gentry, who's the Grizzlies coach, I believe now. I think I said Michael Malone earlier, but that was not true. No, Michael Malone never coached the Grizzlies. Alvin Gentry was. No, I was right. Never mind. Mike Malone was the coach of the Grizzlies. But Alvin Gentry coaches the Pelicans, or did coach the Pelicans. Same thing right there. You have a star in Anthony Davis, like the Bucks. You have a star in Giannis, but you failed to build pieces around him to make him a contender, to make him a better team. I'm surprised Anthony Davis is still in New Orleans with the way they're playing. I'd want out too if I was playing with a team that couldn't win. Now, for the future of this team, those are just some coaches that we could possibly sign, but as right now, Joe Prunty is going to be our interim head coach for the rest of the season, or until we find a new coach. This is similar to what the Golden State Warriors did when they fired Mark Jackson after a subpar start to the season. Who will it take for us to sign or bring in the coach that will take us to the top, that will get us the most of our players? I think it's going to have to be something that they got to really do a long search for a coach. Because as we know, a lot of players become coaches don't really turn out well. You got Steve Kerr, who turned out real well. There are player coaches or former players that turn to coaches that, a lot of them that are good coaches, but that always worked that way. Sometimes we need somebody different. Maybe look on the college level and see what kind of coaches you have out there to bring in and start over new. Maybe we just need a new fresh body. Or maybe we need somebody intern from the house that's not something big that can take over, like Joe Prunty if he does well. Maybe you can have him. The Bucks did it before with Terry Stotts. So it remains to be seen whether or not, or what the Bucks will do with the future of this team, the head coaching. least